This is Get Off My Lawn Live. Join us as we talk trending topics, world and local issues, and the conversations that we need to talk about as people. Get Off My Lawn Network presentation. Good evening, everybody. This is your boy Eric Buckner, E Beezy, your boy E Buck. What's going on? This is Get Off My Lawn Live. I am your host, and I am here this evening in the wonderful city known as Detroit, as you see in the background here, to talk to you guys as we do every Tuesday in regards to trending topics and other situations and topics that I bring up. This particular evening, in regards to those topics, we will also be talking about police reform. And when we talk police reform, here's the thing. We're going to look at this from the aspect of, okay, we've talked until we blew in the face about, yeah, we need to change things as far as the police and what have you. Now I want to talk about solutions. So you are going to join my panel of people who are going to join the commission. And in that commission, we're going to discuss what can we realistically do to change law enforcement and how it is presently ran throughout the country. So that is going to be that discussion. Also, we're going to talk about body imaging because I need to gain some understanding to some of you in regards to this particular topic. Because in the end, it is fueled by things that we actually can control. And I want you to try to have that understanding, or at least see it from the standpoint that I'm coming from in regards to it. So we'll have that discussion as well. So keep in mind, you are here with me here on IG or here on the book or YouTube or here on Bigo as well. For all of you guys, I will allow you a minute to get situated and share the live and share it to others so we all can have this conversation together. And after I come back from this small commercial break, we will get into the show itself. So thank you guys for always tuning in and being a part of these conversations. Right now, this is Get Off My Lawn Live. I am the host, Eric Buckner. And I will be back after a small word from our people here in the Nighthawk Network. Nighthawk Network presents Pastor Sean Love. Pastor Sean Love, devoted father and husband, a residing pastor at the River Rouge Bible Assembly in River Rouge, Michigan. Join him as he gives us messages from God's Word, Bible study, and encouragement. You can find him on YouTube under Sean Love. Hey everybody, we are back here on Get Off My Lawn Live. I am ready now to have talk in regards to what we're talking about tonight. Let us start it off here with the trending topics. First of all, of course, today is April 20th, known to some people in the people who partake of the marijuana as 420. The smokers' holiday. How it became to be that way, it depends. There are several urban legends and myths in regards to why 420 is celebrated in that way. Depending on where you're at in the country or around the world, there are different reasons and rationales for that. For those of you who are partaking and looking at it as the actual holiday, happy 420 to you guys. Keep in mind, marijuana, of course, is starting to grow in terms of its legalization and its usage throughout the country and the world for that matter. At this point, presently here in the United States, we have 36 states who actually allow marijuana for medical purposes, at least 36 of the 50 states. And out of those 36 states, 16 of them have legalized it recreationally as well. Michigan, where I'm currently at, is one of them. So yes, here, if you are here in Michigan and you got it, blaze it up. Enjoy while you watch the show this evening. But don't overdo it, okay? You ain't got to go, just have a couple puffs and chill and so on. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, y'all, that is that going on. So we got 420 going on. But that is not the major focus of what's going on today. We're going to get into that momentarily. First, let me address my audience here. Hey, cuz, justice served today. Yes, I'm absolutely about to go into that, cousin Marla. Road to Stardom, what's going on? How are you? So people checking in from Facebook and YouTube. Thank you, thank you. So yes, of course, we have the major story of the day. But before I get into that, I must point out that even in the midst of everything else that's going on, remember, we are still in the midst of the pandemic, folks. COVID-19 is still very much a part of our well-being and lives, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. Now, granted, keep in mind the cases are going up slightly at this point, but they still are over 70,000 cases of positivity per day for here in the United States. And as far as the world goes, over 113 million people at one point or another has tested positive for COVID-19, according to the numbers. And of course, every time I have that discussion, I look at my numbers and I see people leave the room because some people they choose not to acknowledge the fact that yes, we are dealing with COVID-19, and it is unfortunately part of what we got going on. But yes, people, I will continue to talk about it till it's no longer realistically an issue because it is something we have to contend with, whether you like it or not. Now, they have taken polls recently in regards to COVID 19 and people's reliance and their thoughts on it. Many people now are starting to look at it as not so important. We're dealing with it. Let's move on. Let's open everything back up. Keep in mind, half of the country at this point here in the United States has had at least one person who has had at least one of the doses of the vaccines that are currently being used. So that's almost 180 million people that have said, okay, I'm going to at least accept that, yeah, this may be something we need to work on, and I'm going to be vaccinated. I'm actually surprised by that number. I thought basically once we got to about 35 or 40%, at that point we would have an issue because many of the rest of the people would be like, no, I'm not taking the vaccine. In my personal circle of Vigo people and people here on the book and what have you, other people have acknowledged that, yeah, I'm not doing it. I ain't got no parts of that vaccine. I ain't doing it. I'm not taking it. But fortunately, these people, it appears, may be in the minority. Because keep in mind, whether you want to take it or not, whether you are asked to take it, forced to take it, rationalized into doing so, whatever the case may be, if the majority of everyone takes the vaccine, at that point, they will have to look at it from the standpoint of, okay, this is what we got going. Might as well open it all up, and whatever happens at that point happens. Because in the end, we are all tired. We all want to get back to some sense of normalcy. But because we are only working with each other to a degree in regards to the social distancing and the masking and whatnot, at some point, some people have to look at it as like, okay, we just have to accept that the rest of these people, whatever they're going to do, they're going to do. But we're going to move on. We vaccinated. Hopefully, we are protected from their foolishness, and we'll move on from there. So if your thought process is, I'm just gonna wait till everybody else get it, that way I ain't gonna worry about it. If that's your plan, it looks like it's gonna go your way at this point. But also remember, if enough people are not vaccinated, and the powers that be, the people with the real money, determine at this point, no, we got to open back up. We need to start making this money and whatnot. What about these other folks? Oh, well, we're not going to allow them in there, or we're going to say you need to do this and this. At that point, you have to come to some decisions in regards to that. At any rate, here in Michigan, still an issue. Over 6,000 people tested positive today, over 80 deaths. That's still too many for anything in regards to anything. Over almost 600,000 people here in the United States have died from COVID. That's still way too many. 600,000 of anything is a bad do. So I just wish that we all could do a little better in regards to that. But yes, let us know that that is still present. That being said, let's get to the story of the day. As we all know, we all been sitting here waiting, particularly people in our community, that being the community of the African Americans, to find out what will be the verdict in the George Floyd trial today. We now know that that verdict has come in, and the person who has basically murdered that man has been found guilty on all counts. Many of us are happy with that verdict, it would appear, at least from what I've heard and seen so far. They feel like justice has been served to that degree today. So this is a day to be happy in regards to that. One, I am happy, at least at this point, that we are where we are with it, because in the end, we did not want a situation to where supporting while doing my show on the okay, absolutely, bro. Thank you very much. And I need to check out your show, by the way. You always support us. I definitely want to return that support in return. So we will definitely have that discussion soon. But in regards to what's going on He was found guilty. He is in prison this evening. He will be sentenced. Understand he was found guilty on all three counts, that being second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. So all the sentencing will be in regards to those three counts. Also understand, people, because Minnesota is set up the way it is, none of those counts come with a lifetime sentence. So if you are thinking because he's been found guilty on all three counts, he will be spending the rest of his life in prison in terms of a sentence, not so much. But then, of course, you look at the actual counts and what the sentences are for each count. They may be as little in some cases as a year and a half, up to a maximum of 20 or 40 years in the case of the second degree murder charge there in Minnesota. Now, granted, we have to consider the different laws in different states. We'll have that discussion when we get into our talk this evening about law enforcement, because that comes up as part of the talk. But in terms of this particular case, we do have to understand now that just because he has been found guilty on all three counts, there's a couple things that will have to take place. One, as you know, his defense team will basically file some type of an appeal on his behalf. Now, we have to hope that the prosecution did their job well enough to where they cannot then go to the appeal court and find some type of procedural issue or something they said that they shouldn't have said or whatnot that will allow that to be thrown out, so that all this went for naught. And in the end, this person ends up being free. That is the worst possible scenario that could happen in terms of that. Also, understand, people, that in regards to the situation, if the appeal does not go through, we still have the sentencing. And at this point, it is not the jury that has determined the sentence. It is the judge in that case that will determine the sentence in regards to that murderer. Okay? He's been convicted now, so it's not allegedly. He's convicted of murder. He's murdered. So that being said, it is up to the judge to determine how many years for each count that this individual will eventually get. So justice has not been fully served yet until that happens. What's good, Big Easy? I'm assuming that might be Coach V. What's going on, Coach V? If that is you, what's going on? Appreciate you checking in as always, brother. Raheem from Paris checking in as well on the Bigo. And thank you guys for checking in. Shantae Clark checking in on the IG. Thank you for checking in. So yeah, remember, the judge has to determine what the sentencing will be. So hopefully it will be the type of sentence that we will be okay with. Because in the end, I'm not completely happy, because I know I do not want to see that individual see the light of day ever again. He needs to be locked up for the rest of his natural life because of what he did. He murdered George Floyd. I cannot see it any other way. I saw the defense. I saw the prosecution. Basically, prosecution disproved what my eyes saw. The defense did nothing to change my mind in regards to what they had to say on the subject. He was guilty as yeah. End the discussion on that part of it. But also keep in mind, folks, this is just one of several cases that we have to quote unquote look forward to in the months and years to come in regards to crimes against people of color. We also have the Aubrey trial to look at, the Jacob Blake trial. There will be others in regards to crimes committed against African Americans, whether they be by police enforcement or people who are not people of color, whatever the case may be. That will be high profile trials that we will see on the air, or maybe not see on the air. Keep in mind, there are also three other people that have been in charge, well, not basically in charge, charged in that particular case involving George Floyd. Those three other officers that were part of that arrest that day, those trials will go on as well at some point. And because they are not the person that actually was the person with the knee on the neck, but had something to do with it, those things will have to be into consideration. I will have to say that in the end, justice is not going to be served with all of them. I definitely see a scenario where at least one or two of them basically see no extra time in regards to anything they have done. They were just at the wrong place at the wrong time, helped the wrong individual. So yeah, we have those trials, and those trials probably would not be politicized to the extent that they have, or basically shown on TV to the extent that this one has been. So we may not know until the end of that trial what happened. We may not know what evidence is presented in regards to what's being shown in terms of that. So in the end, when it all is said and done, there'll be different juries and different understandings and different charges brought up. And some of those people, they just may simply get that you did bad. Why you help him kill him? Now go on about your business. And you look up 2 years from now on 2020, where are they now? And that person is in another police force still doing policing and all of that. So that is something that you will have to consider in regards to some of those future trials. I don't think all these trials are going to play out like this one did, to be honest. I can see a scenario where, in the end, one of these people, in regards to some of the other cases, completely walks. They get nothing. They go straight up free. Time served, all of that. At this point, then how do we look to deal with it? Now, keep in mind, there are some of you who had in mind today, if they say he's not guilty, and I know, remember, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Some of y'all said beyond a shadow of a doubt, nope, he about to get off. I know it. I'm glad y'all was wrong by you, but this is not one of those I told you so moments. This is, I'm glad justice was dealt with the way it should have been. But in the same token, you're going to have that same thought about some of these other trials. At that time, you're going to be right. Now, the question is, when it comes up not guilty, what are you prepared to do? And more importantly, are you prepared to deal with the circumstances of your actions? Because some of you were thinking, okay, if they say he's not guilty, I'm going downtown. I'm about to tear up this, and this. If that was your thought process, let me ask you this. What exactly was that going to accomplish? Anybody? Don't all chime in at once. What was that really going to accomplish? You going to your downtown municipality or your police station or whatnot and raising a ruckus and throwing bricks in through windows and that like that. Outside of showing people across the country that you were upset and you are good at throwing a brick and you get at stealing the TV, if that was some of your intention, what did you prove by that? Does that mean that, okay, well, now the next trial, oh, they better not do it. Next time, we're going to tear up even worse. I really need people to think about these things. Understand that if those are your thoughts and reactions in regards to what happens, that's only going to get us so far. Remember, we did all that protesting in regards to George Floyd to begin with, and yet we still have people committing crimes against people of color. We still have other people of color committing crimes against people of color. We're still having things in regards to the police and crime. Today, in the last few days, there have been crimes committed against the police here in Detroit. People shooting at the police. People getting in police chases and having shootouts with the police. People running into police cars. Those types of things. Is that basically going to help to resolve the issue? Think about these things, folks. Okay, now we got some comments. That's what I'm talking about. Y'all chime in now. H2 is saying, hello, H2. Justice was dealt with today, but we will not see yesterday until the sentencing portion of this trial. Exactly. That's just what I said, H2. Absolutely, said Miss Pat. Thank you, Miss Pat, for checking in. Justice was dealt with on today, but it will not. Okay, just basically correcting what you typed in. Yeah, like I said, until the actual sentencing portion of the trial, hold my beer, okay? I still got to see how that part play out. But in the same token, like I said, I think he will be dealt with appropriately based on the laws of Minnesota. The laws of Minnesota. Put a pin in that part. Like I said, we're going to go there later. But in terms of everything else in some of the other places, think about where some of these other trials or things will take place. If we ever get Breonna Taylor situated, that trial will take place in Kentucky. Understand who's in charge of Kentucky right now, who the senators from Kentucky are, the fact that it is ran by Republicans, things of that nature. If you into that type of party thing, understand that the Aubrey trial is being held in Georgia. You see how Georgia deals with their elections and whatnot. You see how they've dealt with in terms of the whole we a blue state thing and how some people have spoke out on that. So consider that when you consider that trial. Of course, you know, Jacob Blake was similar in regards to it happening in a Midwestern place. Laws very similar to that in Minnesota. So we have that to consider. And these things are constantly going on, even still, despite all the protests that we did last year. These things are still very prevalent in our society. Also, understand, people, in the news today, there was another mass shooting. These things continue to happen. We have to start to look at not only why, But what can we realistically do? What can we realistically do, people, in order to resolve some of these issues? Because in the end, we can cry and whine and complain till we blue in the face. But we have to start looking at this thing from the standpoint of, okay, I'm tired of this guff. What can we do now to resolve these things? What can we do to help fix them? What can we do so that one day we can wake up and we don't have some of these problems that we have now, or at least to the extent that we have them now? These are the conversations we're looking to have this evening and in the weeks and months to come. Because, like I said, venting and all that, some things in regards to these crimes go back hundreds and hundreds of years. But at some point, we have to try to do something to resolve them, or at least make them to they are not the situations that we find ourselves in now. Okay, everybody saying hi to each other here. That's always encouraged here on the show. It's sad that people make decisions according to what political party they're. And yes, that is sad. You already know, anybody who's seen my shows on a regular basis, how I feel about this party system. It has made our country far worse than better in terms of division and, okay, well, you do that, well, you're a bad Republican. You do that, well, you're not a good Democrat, and things of that nature. It's like we all in a gang right now. You're in the Democrat gang, Republican gang, or you're not in a gang. And you have to deal with the gang warfare from them two gangs. It's crazy. At some point, we need to fix that. That's a whole show for another day, y'all. Anyway, Miss Pat is saying, it is really sad. George Floyd's daughter has to grow up without a dad, and George Floyd is deceased. Exactly. Because in the end, you could give that man triple life. And in my view, it's still not enough. Not to say that no, just because George Floyd is dead, that man should be dead as well, that we should just take him out and shoot him. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that some crimes, there is no punishment strong enough. There is not a dollar amount that you could put on it big enough to make up for what it has done in terms of not only that individual and their family, but the society in and of itself. All right, friend Amy checking into the show. Always appreciate you, friend Amy. Good evening, good evening. Now, before we move on, I must send a special shout out to a special supporter here in the Nighthawk Network. That is one Leah. Leah. Leah Ingram. Yeah, you, friend. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Leah. Also known to us in the Nighthawk Network as Princess Leah. Thank you very much for your support of the network and for being one of our good people in the support group. We love you. We love you very much. Happy birthday to you, Leah. Appreciate you very much. So yeah, I had to send that shout out to her. Been a big supporter throughout the Nighthawk Network and all the shows. So definitely want to give her that acknowledgement today. Everybody else chiming in. Hey, Amy. H2 saying hi to Amy. Absolutely, Eric. Okay, Marsha V. Butler checking in on the Bigo side. Hello to you. Yep, everybody saying happy birthday, Leah. Happy birthday, Princess. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, show Leah some love, y'all. So yeah, that being said, people, we have had that discussion. It will continue. These cases will continue. The verdicts will continue. And just be mindful, if your thought process, if it don't go the way I want it to, I'm going to do this. Understand that that's only going to get us so far in the process. Not to mention there will be others that will come to use those opportunities to make it look worse than it already does. In regards to, yeah, oh yeah, y'all gonna tear up, here's a brick. Oh, y'all messing stuff up? Yeah, okay, let me open this window for y'all so y'all can steal the stuff. And that type of thing. Now keep in mind, there was a couple interesting conversations I wish I could have made you privy to in regards to some of the news coverage today. The chief, that is the chief of police here in Detroit, his name, his name, his name has come up a lot, y'all. It absolutely has. Because that discussion is part of the discussion we will have when we come back about Chief Craig and Ms. Talib and Ms. Waters and some of the things they've said in regards to the whole police situation and the Floyd trial. All that plays into what we have to talk about when we come back. But keep in mind, we also have for us later on this evening, hopefully we'll be joined by one Stan Mason. Stan Mason, the person who is the host of the show we know as Behind the Blue Curtain. He is scheduled to join us to join in part of that discussion in regards to police reform. But here's the question, y'all, in a nutshell. Here we are. We're forming a coalition. We're forming a committee that is going to study what we see currently in terms of law enforcement and police reform and give some solutions and recommendations to the government in regards to what we would see done. So imagine you are on that committee and you have some things in regards to that. And we want to know what you think. But before I move on, here's a good conversation. Hey, I got my second dose of the vaccine yesterday, by the way. No ill effects yet besides a sore arm. All right. Glad to hear that, Amy. As y'all know, last week we talked about how I went to be vaccinated last week on Tuesday. Again, I also did not have any ill side effects. If anything, I was doing even more than I was doing before the shot. Now, last night, yeah, I was tired, so I went to bed early. That's rare for me these days, but cannot count that as a side effect. That's just me basically doing a lot that day and decided, you know what, shut it down. So that was that. And again, in terms of the side effects for the vaccine, they vary based on which one you take. As you'll wonder which one she took, it is the Pfizer vaccine. I have taken the Moderna. As you know, there is still a pause on those who are giving out the Johnson and Johnson. Still looking into the causes of the people, the 6 people who had blood clots, seeing if they relate to the Johnson and Johnson and why and how. Until they have that understanding, they will not be issuing out any more Johnson and Johnson vaccines here in the United States. They are still issuing them out, however, in other countries. Just so you know. Sean Love checking in here on the Instagram. What's going on, Pastor Sean? Crystal checking in here on the Bigo. Hello. Hello to everybody out here in the Facebook and YouTube. We are here on Get Off My Lawn Live. When we come back, we are talking police reform. You are on the commission, folks. What are you looking to do? What do you think we can realistically do to change law enforcement for the better? So think about that. When we come back, let's have that discussion. As I said, y'all, this is Get Off My Lawn Live. I'm still Eric Buckner, and we still going to talk about it after all of this stuff right here. Let's go.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Behind the Blue Curtain, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Unscripted talk on police reform and race relations.
And now, Behind the Blue Curtain's law enforcement liaison, retired 32-year Chicago police veteran, homicide detective, former commander, sergeant, grant writer, lecturer, and adjunct professor, Joseph J. Mosley.
Behind the Blue Curtain's minister of common sense, former 12-year Fort Worth police officer, educator, voice of reason, and unapologetic practitioner of sound judgment, the young scholar, LaRonda Young.
Behind the Blue Curtain's co-host, fact checker, and investigative journalist Isidoro Rodriguez.
Nighthawk Network presents Pastor Sean Love. Pastor Sean Love, devoted father and husband, a residing pastor at the River Rouge Bible Assembly in River Rouge, Michigan. Join him as he gives us messages from God's Word, Bible study, and encouragement. You can find him on YouTube under Sean Love. The views and opinions expressed here on Get Off My Lawn Live are those of the host or his guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the Nighthawk Network or its associates. Viewer and listening discretion is advised. What's going on, everybody? We are back. It is Get Off My Lawn Live. I'm your host, Eric Buckner, and we are here to talk to you guys this evening. Right now, the subject is police reform. What can we realistically do to make it happen? What are some of our suggestions for the committee here? We are going joined on this part of the podcast by my good friend, my big bro, Mr. Stan Mason.
What's up, bro?
What's going on, Stan? Good evening. How
Oh
are
man.
you?
Oh, it's all good, man. It's all good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Good, good, okay.
And I'm sure you guys can hear him as well. At least I do. If you don't, please let me know. But nonetheless, we have brought Stan here because he has a unique perspective in regards to this particular discussion, among which being that he is a former officer of the law enforcement industry. So I will let him give his resume in regards to that, and then we will begin the discussion. The floor is
Uh,
yours, sir.
Basically, brother, I did 25 years at Waco PD in Waco, Texas. Originally from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Spent 11 years in the Air Force. Got out after Desert Storm. Went to Waco, Texas. Began, took the civil service test and highest civil service score in the history of the department. Did my entire career in patrol. Even when I went to neighborhood services where I was a neighborhood police officer, where Claire Crook, who at that time was, when I got there, was a sergeant. And she's kind of my mother of policing. I mean, she raised me and really in policing and taught me how to do things the right way, what to do, how to treat people. And this is the 90s, man. Everybody was a hero. Everybody was to get the big drug bust. And I mean, yeah, guns and dope in every car out there. But I lived in the hood, man. I mean, I had drug dealers lived across the street from me, but I had to coexist. You got to go to work, and they understood I had to do my job. And I found that in that demographic of people, it wasn't doing your job is how you did it. Because, see, they also saw me at the rec center playing ball in my free time. They also saw me in the corner store when they were in the corner store. They saw me at the HEB, which is our shopping centers, when they were in there. They saw me going to church when they might have been knowing what they were doing. They wasn't really going to church, but, they saw me then. So I didn't know it, but just being me and doing me and looking at policing as something I do. It's not who I am, it's something I do. That they saw in me them, even though they're on the other side of the fence. And a lot of these guys actually, and they've come on the show and said it, a lot of them have cleaned up their lives and went to prison, but they've come on the show and just called in out of the blue. You didn't know it, but brother, you changed the way I see things and I did things. And one guy called in and said, you didn't know it, but my guys used to ride by your house to make sure you and your family were okay. And they weren't riding by because of gang members or other drug dealers. These guys said, you're not real liked by some people where you work. Now that's saying something, so after the deaths of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, I made a tough decision. I mean, I was at a point in my career, brother, where I known in the community, respected in the community, black, white, rich, poor, got along with everybody, and to this day I still love the community there. But somebody had to say something that does the job. And I knew, and I remember, I sat up there, in my little den holding my phone. And I knew if I hit this go live button on this Facebook, my next call that comes in on this phone might be, you need to be in the chief's office. I knew I'm going to instantly lose friends or co-workers. I didn't talk about my department or my city. I spoke in regards to, as I do on the show, policing as a whole, nationwide. And at that time, I had been a police officer for 21 years, but I've been black a long time. And I was black before I became a police officer, and I'm still black when I'm no longer a police officer. So, at some point you have to say, I can be Philando Castile. I can be Tamir Rice. And that appeal goes out to not just black officers, but Hispanic officers and female officers who the system is designed within departments to keep you quiet, to keep you marginalized. And we oftentimes don't recognize that even when we get to what we would call ourselves, there's a Judas in the midst that can't wait to run back and say what Stan said. And so when I spoke up, overnight I became by myself. Say one officer there I still keep in touch with today, and I won't give his name, but that will call, you doing all right, brother? And this wasn't somebody, when I left, that had 20 years in,
Mm-hmm.
They said, I got you. How you feeling? You okay? How's everything? How's your family? When there were officers at that time that known me for 20 years, didn't even know my kids' names.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even know where they went to school. What was my wife's name? So we have to first understand that this concept of the blue family is a fallacy. It's not true. There's more infidelity and infighting and kingdom building and racial disparity in policing today within the department than you all on the street will ever see. And if that's not true, then why do you have cities who recognize the police association? But within that department, there's also a black police officers association. The city will also recognize that association, which gives it validity, because if these officers chose for whatever reason to form their own association, it's because the bigger association is not hearing them or meeting their needs. That is the first flare that goes up to the city that says, we have a problem in our department. If you have a Hispanic police officer association, a black police officer association, and a police officer association, you have a problem. So don't tell me we're a blue family. We're a blue family or everybody sleeps in separate bedrooms and nobody talks. That's real talk.
Mm-hmm. Now, hold on, Stan, before you go on. This is why I had Stan come on the show. Understand that if we are going to have a commission, hypothetically, you cannot have one if you do not have at least one or two people who have actually done the job. In order to fully understand what is needed to make change, or if there is change to be had, we must first understand not only from the perspective of what we see, but from the perspective of those who actually do these jobs. So that is why you have someone like a Stan Mason on this commission that we have formed here, hypothetically, because you need to know what goes on in terms of the other side of the coin. It's easy for some of us to come on here and say, well, just get rid of the police. Defund the police. First of all, understand what that term consists of. Those of you who just kind of throw it out there as if to say, we don't want no more police, understand that a lawless society would not be good at all. That the minute anything happens and you're going to be like, well, dang, this didn't happen. Now what to do? So your thought is what? Well, I guess now ain't no police. I'll go out and get a gun and do it myself and whatnot. And then what happens? You have chaos. And with chaos comes what? What good comes of that? No, you cannot do it that way. There must be someone to say, okay, this is not cool. You cannot do this. This is why. So those of you who are thinking no police, period, no, you're not thinking at all. First of all. Second of all, when we talk about defunding the police and breaking up the police and getting rid of them, we need to have more specific answers in regards to that, okay? It is not as simple as some of y'all make it out to be. And this is why we're having this discussion, so you have that understanding, okay? Now, granted, we do appear to have a government that is willing to work with us. If you saw President Biden speak tonight in regards to what happened, in regards to the Floyd case, he is very sympathetic to the family. He understands that justice is served. He understands that people who are people of color have these issues that go on and they're not being addressed the way that they need to. And his administration appears to be sympathetic and want to do things about that. But in the end, we also have to understand we must also help ourselves in these regards. So this is part of that discussion as well. Now, first of all, let's talk about, okay, those of you who say, okay, well, the police spend too much money on this, this, and this. Me and Stan had a little discussion about that today in regards to that. Stan, will you make them privy to what your thought was in regards to that.
Okay, the first thing, brother, is this philosophical hashtag of defund. Throw that crap out the window. That's garbage.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you why it's garbage. I found that most of the people sitting in a barbershop or just talking on the street that will throw that out, they don't even know what the police budget looks like. They never saw it. If you've never done a public records request and asked to see the police budget, where you can sit down and look at exactly what your department spends money on, be quiet.
And keep in mind that these things for public consumption. You can't go and get copies of these things.
Yeah, and because when you say defund the police, okay, and that money goes where? It goes into these things cities call a general fund. That money can go to cutting down trees, paving a sidewalk over here. And for those of you to go, that would be great. The sidewalk probably won't be in your neighborhood and probably neither will the trees. And then when you go back and you say, well, we want money for a power program, they're going to say resubmit it and we'll look at it in the budget for next year. So I'm not an advocate of defunding the police. I am an advocate of auditing the police and seeing how that money is spent and where is it going. If we're spending $3,000 and $4,000 per rifle and buying 10 new sniper rifles every year when we haven't sniped anybody in years, that money can be reallocated. Don't take it out of that budget. Move that money into a power program or into your community policing program or whatever it is that you want to do. But I think we have to stop carrying these hashtags of people who scream defund. I don't care that they have titles, because most of the people, when I look at police reform, that I see people following and trending behind, these people live in gated communities and have more money than any of us here. The things we're talking about, they don't live with every day. Yes, they can be subject to it, but they don't live with it every day like we do. So that's the first thing that we have got to understand. What is best for me, people who look like me, then people who are in my socioeconomic condition. That means some of them are going to be white, because truth has no color. So, it's not as simple as take money from the police and defund the police.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, you see Meech's checking in. Breaking news, a 16-year-old black girl was shot and killed by police officer at 4:30 today. Breaking news here, Demetrius, in regards to officers today, 2 officers here in Detroit got shot today. One was in a car accident. 3 other people were killed by police officers today in a car chase. It got real ugly here in Detroit today. The chief of police, he spoke on it. You had access to the Detroit news on your computer, I'm sure. Just check it all out. It was not a good day for police or people dealing with the police, for that matter, unfortunately. 16-year-old shot and killed by police officer in Southeast Columbus. So yes, I'm sure they will have that discussion tomorrow on the major news outlets. But unfortunately, folks, this is part of the problem. These things are happening far too often. We have had the protests, we've had the discussions, and here we are about a year later, and we still are having these issues. So my thing is, folks, what are we doing? What are your solutions? We know we have a problem. That is very clear and apparent. What are the solutions? Some of you say, okay, well, the police, they got too much weaponry. They have all these weapons. They don't need all that. I disagree with that, because, again, you're trying to control what the police have in terms of weaponry and whatnot, but the criminals, what you doing for them? You gonna control their weaponry? As a police officer, you have to look at it from the standpoint of, okay, I got this little gun, that little gun, but they got these assault rifles and whatnot. How am I supposed to take this little gun to the big gun fight? So yeah, they need the same type of weapons that they're being forced to deal with on the streets. Understand that. In terms of some of you guys looking at, okay, well, why do we need so many police officers that are narcos or are people that deal with downtown or whatever the case may be? There are reasons and rationales for all of these things, folks. Have that understanding going in. Yeah, go ahead.
Eric, no, I agree with you, but I say this. I think that a lot of the public outrage with police being armed, somewhat paramilitary as far as being armed, if you want to say, isn't really so much that they have the stuff, that you always seem to break it out when black people are involved. the thing. If we go back to Ferguson, which is the first time people really ever got a glimpse of the militarization of police, which I can tell you back in the 90s, we had armored personnel carriers and all that stuff too, because we were dealing with crack wars. But it didn't need to be there. So the police themselves shot themselves in the foot by constantly doing this show of force when it comes to peaceful black folks. But yet you could walk into the White House and they ain't got nothing, or the Capitol building, they got nothing but revolvers. But as far as the need of officers to be armed, I'm not going to dispute that. I agree with officers having the firepower they need, because if anybody says it's not necessary, in my 25 years, there are officers I liked and there's a hell of a lot of them I didn't. But I never met one of them who said, I came to work tonight to die. Not one. They came to work knowing that that may happen. Good or bad or otherwise, they were there. 15 years ago in Los Angeles, some guys decided to rob a bank. And they planned it, and they were head to toe, padded up with bulletproof stuff from head to toe. These officers showed up with those 40 millimeter guns and were shooting them, and it was having no effect. And then you can see the video. The guy's walking down the street with a machine gun, just mowing officers down. They had to break into a pawn shop and get AR-15s and ammunition from a pawn dealer or a gun store dealer just to be able to come out there and be able to address the threat, because they weren't equipped to deal with that threat.
Wow.
And that video, you look at LA bank shootout and you watch that video. When you get off here, you watch it. This guy is walking down the street with a machine gun out in the open. He ain't ducking behind cars, just shooting at officers. And you can see the bullets hitting him, and he's just walking like Superman, literally. So I think that officers should have the things they need to do the job handy. But I disagree with the fact that we only seem to ever pull these things out when we're dealing with that scary those other people. Then everything comes out.
Right. And now also in this discussion, realize people that different laws are in different states, okay? Some people, they automatically assume, okay, well, that happened there, then that means it's murder, it's manslaughter, it's this and that. What may be the law in Minnesota, for instance, may not necessarily be the law in Detroit or Texas or Georgia, or the case may be. There are different laws in different states. So some of these things are affected by that. Remember, in terms of getting the laws changed, that has nothing to do with a person as a police officer. That has to do with the politicians that set everything up from there. So while you guys are saying, okay, yeah, voting, it don't matter. I don't need to go vote. My vote don't count. These are the reasons why your vote counts. This is why you need to, when you go and look at your ballot, not only look at who is president, who is governor, who is senator, but also who is in charge of the city budget, who's the city clerk, who is on the city council, who is the mayor. These people play a key role into how that part of the government is ran. Because remember, they get the money to allocate to these different agencies and whatnot. It is the state that says, okay, the state police need this, here's that money, and so on and so forth. So if you have crooked politicians and people of that nature in that part of the government, and then it goes and rolls down from there, that is part of the issue. So you are part of that solution, and that you have the power to go and put your ballot into the ballot machine and say, okay, I need this person, because I approve of what they're talking about in regards to what I want done. And if I put them in there, they will make sure that what I want done gets done. So that part, I need you to understand. Also, gain an understanding of the fact that when we look at the different laws in the books, some of those things need to be revamped. Some of those things in terms of what is law, particularly in some of the southern states, in regards to people that look like us, that is people of color. Yeah, why are they on the books? Why is it that way? Why is nobody trying to change them? Why do nobody even understand that they are there? You understand if it used on you later on down the line that, oh, what? Huh? Yeah, that's right. Keep in mind, in some states, yeah, you may have a lot of horses as police officer use situations. In Wyoming, there are places where, okay, you got to get there on horseback, okay? But in the same token, in other cities, well, they don't have horses. They don't need money for that. But in the same token, that might be part of the budget. There are what's the name for them, Stan? The
Mounted Horse
yeah,
Patrols.
mounted police. Yeah, there are mounted police forces here in Detroit, for example. They do. You often see them downtown or certain areas where they use those to kind of control crowds and things of that nature. But you have to understand why that is necessary. Keep in mind, everything that's in that budget that we talk about that you can go look at, there has to be an accounting for that. Why do you need this amount of money for that? Why do you need that amount of money for that? If you have that understanding, then you understand why some things cost what they cost and you need what you need. I had one person in regards to this conversation today was like, well, I don't understand why they need all those big cars that go real fast and whatnot. Why do police need that? Are you serious? Were you for real with that? I see you in the room now. Yeah, were you for real with that, or was you messing with me? Do understand, right? Here in Detroit, for example, they have this thing they do called street racing. They do it all hours of the day and night, and these things are not sanctioned, okay? You can have hundreds of people go somewhere in some part of Detroit that is quote unquote abandoned and start these races and be racing up and down the street, and people get hit and injured in these things all the time. So now you're gonna have a police car come out and try to catch these people in these souped up vehicles. They gotta have something to work with, okay? If the police car only goes so fast and this other thing is supercharged with nitrogen or whatever the case may be, rocket fuel, I don't know. You got to give them some means to apprehend these people.
But Eric, I think that we, as police, we need to utilize the tools that we already have. I think that sometimes we want the newest toy when we haven't even used or unboxed the other toy. I've never been a proponent of car chases. A rape, a burglary, a murder suspect, a violent assault, I'm behind the suspect. That's one thing. But pursuits for traffic stops. My policy was I don't pursue. My department left it open. It's up to the officer. And if you got in a pursuit, you had to come over the radio, announce the pursuit. You had to give the traffic, it's light, it's heavy, your direction, your speed. You had to constantly be giving that out. And the sergeant would be listening. And they may say, cancel. Why are you chasing him? That's usually what you hear on the radio. Why are you chasing him? And I'll give Waco credit when they say traffic violation. That supervisor say cancel it. And this is why. If these guys are street racing, yes, they're a danger to the public. And they're going 140 miles an hour down the street. I got to go 160 to catch them. So now you got two cars speeding, not just one. Neither one of you are professional trained drivers. Yes, we get driver training, but let's put the egos aside. We're not race car drivers, okay? Yes, we need these high dollar cars with that are expensive, and the Tahoes are lower, and they got a wider wheelbase, and they got this, and they got that. Why? Because everybody we put in a patrol car that's going to jail, we're taking them to jail, but it's up to a court to call them guilty. They deserve to not be stuffed in the back of a Chevette. You know, putting somebody in the back of a car, the more room we have to manipulate them and move them around, it helps us not have incidents like what led into George Floyd's type of thing. You know, we're putting citizens in our car. We hold the cabs to a standard that transports you from A to B. Lyft drivers have to be able to do A to B. Just because you're going to jail does not mean you shouldn't have the right to be comfortable getting there. And your safety is my responsibility. So I don't have a problem with the quality of the cars the police have. You know, my department I was at, we had those Dodge Chargers, top of the line Chargers, super fast cars. And them young officers loved them cars. I couldn't fit in the damn thing. I'm 6'4". I'm riding around in this car for 10 hours. I couldn't get nobody your size in the back to go to jail. Now they're aggravated because they're drunk and they're squeezed up in there and their knees hurt. So now I'm going to say he was fighting me. He was resisting me. The man is in pain just being put in the patrol car. So what did the city do? To their credit, the city went out and brought these brand new, huge, and I loved them, Tahoes, big. That gave me room for all of my equipment. So if I get in an accident, everything's not flying around in the car in my face. It also gave larger people space back there and room where they're not cramped up and confined. You know, so I think as far as the cars, that's the least of our worries. The biggest thing is the mentality of the officer that we're asking to go out into the street. They got personal problems like everybody on it. Trust me, I can tell you they do. From cheating spouses to unpaid taxes to bills up over their head, the medical. They got everything you're experiencing, they experience. But then they go out and listen to problems all day. Nobody's calling us because everything's great. Sit down and have lunch with us. And I think chiefs lose track of that too. So the officers listen to a world of crap every day for 10 hours. Then they got to go home and deal with their world of crap. And so it boils over because there really isn't anything there.
Okay, yeah, I got a few questions here from Big Meech. Shout out to Big Meech Edition T. Stan, what are laws that may be on the books that are not being enforced when it comes to gun control?
That one you can't answer because gun control varies from state to state. So you really can't say specifically. You really have to look at that state. Texas is very gun-free, where Chicago isn't. Illinois isn't. So, and then you have jurisdictions that confine, that put restrictions on that too. So that's something that people, once again, they have to go into where they are in their demographic, in their geographic area and say, what impacts me? And then when you're buying a house, you might want to look at that before you buy the house. Do you want to live there? The house is nice, but you're living under these laws. If you're not good with those laws, go find somewhere else to live.
Because like I said, granted, we are the United States of America, but I think what we're starting to learn, particularly in recent years, we're not quite as united as you think we are. Okay, he says, and how do we look at pawn shops who will take and sell guns? How do we get a better handle on that regulation?
In Waco, when I was there, I can tell you this. If you pawned anything in Waco, I don't care if it was an Xbox or a pistol, we knew. We got a listing. We could go on the computer and look at what you pawned. They tracked all of that. I will say to their credit there, they stayed on top of that. So if you wanted to sell or buy a stolen gun, you weren't going to do it in Waco. Because if you traffic in that, you knew Waco's on board with it. So you do it by departments like Waco and McLennan County who are doing the right things. Start speaking up and telling your sister cities and sister counties, this is what we're doing. This is what is working for us. Adopt what we're doing. We will show you how to do it. So the departments have to talk.
Okay, Amy saying, hey, Stan.
Hey, Amy.
What's going on? Again, is it customary for an officer to ask for a larger car to transport suspects? Why don't officers do it more often?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And then it depends because departments don't buy individual cars. In my experience in Waco, they buy fleet vehicles. They get a fleet price, and the police cars they're not cheap. You get a stripped down car that has the electrical stuff. Like you go buy a Tahoe where you see a dash and all that. It's not in our cars. You got other hookups, and then you got to buy the other lights and all that. The separate stuff and the radio and all that got to get put in. So the city is looking at the best bargain they can get. Sure, there are officers who may be out there in a Charger. If there's one any left, I don't know. But if there's some left, and they may say, hey, can somebody with a Charger come over here? Or somebody with a Tahoe, rather, come over here. And, usually a guy and transport this guy to jail for him. Typically, the detectives drive those little Chevy Cavaliers or something like that, unmarked. So it's not unusual for them to say, hey, can you send me a unit to transport? And the officers work pretty good as far as doing that.
Okay, now, since we have you here, hopefully you can help define this for me. Someone asked me today about qualified immunity. By definition, it says it is a legal principle that grants government officials performing discretionary functions immunity from civil suits unless the plaintiff shows that the official violated, quote unquote, clearly established statutory or constitutional rights of which a reasonable person would have known. Now, basically, if you are a learned person, you can read through that, but most of us here don't understand what that means. Can you give us a working definition of that, sir?
Yeah, basically, what you said it is, that's exactly what it is. But the reason why qualified immunity becomes such an important topic is because the way to the city's pockets for civil liability is by holding the officer accountable. That's why so many times you'll see that the city will hire a law firm that defends the city and the officer to protect the officer, because if you can get the officer, you can get to the city. That's basically been used, and it does have its good points, but I think, to me, that the way it's been used, much like many things in policing and many laws, the law means one thing. It's not the law; it's the application, and when we choose to apply it and to who we choose to apply it to, which caused that now to become a hot button item.
Okay. Hold on. Got another question here. What is your suggestion on how to audit police departments to keep the pork, the budget excess, to a minimum?
Easy. Folks need to, maybe they need to stop getting on Facebook all the time and watch your city council meetings. They're on Zoom. That's number one. The police budget is not secret. You can do a freedom of information and get it, and it's probably going to be about that thick, and sit down and go through it. And you're going to find stunning things that officers already know. For instance, not calling out anybody, but I'm going to give you a personal example. When I watch the SWAT team go out every week and shoot thousands of rounds the taxpayers pay for, and that's expensive. They're going over here and doing training. They're getting paid. They're on city time. They're going and doing their training. They're using pyrotechnics and blowing up stuff and training to do this. That's great. But then I come to work and I find out that the new training budget for the midnight shift, which is 3 platoons, or 6, because when we're off, there's another one. So you got 6 platoons. On each squad, there's 3 squads on each platoon. Or 2 platoons with, 6 squads. On my squad, at that time, there's 6 or 7 of us. Now, they say, okay, the training budget for officers who want to attend the course, whether it's dispute resolution, conflict resolution, cultural diversity, whatever, for all 6 of us, just on our squad, okay, there's $1,500 in the budget. Pardon me, are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right? SWAT just shot that much in ammunition up last week. But for officers who want to take continuing education courses that benefit the department, like cultural diversity, conflict resolution, all the things we like to throw out, you're telling these 6 officers there's only $1,500 for our squad in the training budget when one class may cost $500. And you wonder why your officers don't have training. How many training sessions has your chief gone to that are in Miami, that are held in LA, where the city is flying them out there, paying for the class, and everybody's sitting around eating shrimp cocktail? The chief comes back, the officers never hear anything about what was discussed and how it benefited them. But it padded the chief's resume. That's why you got so many chiefs right now start at this department, go to this big department, go to this big department, because they use the taxpayer dollars to pad their personal resume. Because if you're at a police department as a police chief and you're gone within 5 years, you either didn't do your job or you didn't care about those people. Because I spent 25 years caring about the folks I policed. And you don't just pick up and go for no reason.
Okay, we got more questions. Do you think that training police to shoot to kill is a good policy for the safety of the officer and the public, or do you have a suggestion about training changes if needed? That's an excellent question.
Well, the first thing is, I can tell you from my experience, we're not trained to shoot to kill. We are trained to shoot to stop the aggression. And when people find that term as an anger or rage thing, if somebody breaks in your house today to kill your wife, your husband, your kids, are you aiming for their leg? Or are you trying to stop them? If they die, they die. They're in your house. They're trying to hurt or harm you or a loved one. Shooting you in the leg is not going to have any impact on that gun in your hand. Somehow shooting you in the leg is not going to tell your hand stop working. That is a proven fact. There are a lot of officers who have shot suspects in the leg who ended up dead because the suspect put 5 rounds in them. So I think that's the thing that's put out. We're trained to shoot center of mass, to be proficient. And do we, I have a problem with the bad shootings. I don't think we always need to go to the gun. But when you go to the gun, Stan wants to go home. I'm going to make sure that if I have to use that gun, I'm not saying I'm going to keep shooting until my clip is empty, but you're going to be on that ground and no longer a threat to me, so I can back up and wait for somebody to get there. But I'm not going to go out there trying to shoot someone in the leg compared to a chest. Number one, I don't care how much you go to the range. You're scared, you're hyperventilating, you have tunnel vision, you're not seeing anything, you're nervous, your hands are shaking, and you're supposed to hit a leg or a hand. That's TJ Hooker. That's not reality. Most police shootings occur within a 3-foot range. The officer fires an average of 5 rounds. Only 2 of them hit the target. Why? Because they're scared. They're throwing rounds. Look at how many gangbangers let off 20 rounds and they didn't even hit who they're shooting at. So shooting someone in the leg, if they're holding a gun and they're a threat to your life, I can go into court and I can say I shot him because I felt I was in fear of my life. Well, you shot him in the leg. Why didn't you shoot him in the chest? I'm sorry, people are going to get shot. It's just we have bad people out here who mean to do me, you, Amy, and anybody else, Big Meats, they mean to do us harm. So we can't just blanketly say nobody should be shot. That's unrealistic. None of us want to die. And like I said, for anybody who's not quite understanding what I'm saying, when you lay down and sleep tonight, imagine hearing your front door kicked in. And here comes some home invaders into your house, yelling, "We're going to rape your wife and we're going to kill you." And you pick up that shotgun. Are you looking for their leg? Or are you looking to stop these people who mean to do harm to you? And that's not to give people like Chauvin and Kim Potter that killed Dante Wright. It's not to give them a pass. And we'll go into them later. But that is how we train. And we train that way because I work night shift. And people like to analyze these shootings from the perspective of it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun is out, and everything is crystal clear. At night, everything isn't crystal clear. And you're dealing with sometimes tinted windows and dark areas and people coming out everywhere. And all of that is weighing on that officer at the same time. And you know, I'll throw them under the bus when they're wrong. But I think the society has a bad habit of looking at cops or with that 24-hour policing, whatever, PD Live. They watch that nonsense and they think it's real. That is not real. When you see these officers out there, and America's built this perception of policing off of that, when you see them stop a guy that's just simply drunk, and they got 3 officers there, the sergeant shows up, the helicopter's going around, and here comes the K-9 unit. Those are the same departments where you can't get 2 officers or 3 officers to respond to a domestic disturbance because we don't have enough people, because the media's there and the camera's there. They tell you in roll call, if they're with this guy today. If you hear that unit get a call, you stay free so you can get there. So it looks like we got plenty of officers, but at the same time, they're telling the city we don't have enough people. So which one is it?
Right. Okay, we got more questions. I'm going to ask these couple and you can answer them at the same time. Okay, first, Amy is saying, do you have to file a report when you draw or discharge a weapon? Do you keep a count of ammo? And Meech is asking, why aren't they using blanks or rubber pellets? Or does it make a difference because they cost the same?
Okay, blanks are absolutely out of the question. I don't ever want to work with an officer that uses a blank because a blank sounds like a real gun. And when you're in a high-stress situation and you pull out something, if I look over to my left and this guy's got something black in his hand and point it, I know it's not his taser because our tasers are yellow. If he fires a blank, what am I thinking he's doing? Firing a round. And you're going to get what's called sympathetic fire. To Amy's question, you know, we our ammo, if you get in the shooting, my experience, they come out, they'll take your gun, they give you another one. They don't, because they need it for forensic studies. You know how many rounds you fired, and you just get more rounds so you have what you're supposed to carry. But what was the first part of her question again, Eric? Because it was real good.
Do you have to file a report when you draw or discharge? Yes.
At my department I was at, and I'm going to, when Waco does something wrong, I'm not afraid to call it out, but I give them credit. Years ago, we developed a use of force form to where if you had to put physical hands on somebody, you had to spray them, you had to hit them with your baton, and then later on when we got tasers, you utilized your taser. You had to fill that form out immediately. It's reviewed by your supervisor, it's reviewed by your commander, and it's sent up to the chief, who looks over, and then they pull your body camera footage and they look at all of that and they come back and say internally, whether it was justified or not justified. But we had a use of force form that we had to use every single time you use force.
And keep in mind, charge was basically, I mean, you got to remember, in the end, police is a job like any other job. When you use certain things, you have to have some type of account for these things. It's just like if you work at a fast food place, you need to account for how many burgers were used, what equipment that you used that week, was it properly cleaned? If it was maintenance, what things were needed for the maintenance? How much it cost to fix all these things? It's paperwork for all this type of stuff, pretty much at any job that you work. So that only makes sense that is the case. Okay, hold on. We got a litany of things going on here now. Thank y'all all. I'm gonna address what I can here. Amy is saying, so you think officers should be held accountable or departments be held accountable when a citizen is injured or killed? And yes, Latanya, I did see the report about the young lady who was shot. Mentioned that earlier in the show. Okay, go ahead.
Amy, absolutely. I think there hasn't been enough officer accountability or departmental accountability most of the time because cities are worried about being sued, number one. Because they have not given these officers adequate training. They hired people that should never have had a gun. They hired people that should never have had a badge. And nobody wants to open up the proverbial can of worms that comes into department environment. How safe do the officers feel in the confines of the police department? I say that to say this. You guys just see us on the street. And you always hear how dangerous it is on the street. The potential of what can happen on the street. When you're sitting in roll call and the guy to your left or the guy to your right or the sergeant or commander at that front desk is screwing this guy's wife and you know they don't like each other and everybody in that room got guns, that's in a lot of police departments. I've seen it. But nobody talks about that. Y'all don't know about that. You know, the police chiefs aren't handling that. And so what happens when one of these guys snaps in a roll call and we find out there's been a shooting in a police department? What happens then? That is realistic. It's not just limited to where I work. It's everywhere. And everybody in that room has a gun.
Right. And think about some of these mass shootings of late. They involve places where people work and they weren't happy with their fellow co-workers for whatever reason. And that day it was like, enough is enough. Here you go. So imagine the people, that police people, they have some of those same issues with people they work with. What if one of them decides to just snap off one day and just set it off in the police department?
But I think that goes back to the George Floyd crime bill that everybody talked about. And while I see things in it, I said I was disappointed in two things I didn't see in that bill that I openly advocate for. I believe that if officers have a stable mental health, they're going to perform better on the street. And when we look at the fact that year after year after year, more officers are killed by suicide than by citizens, that tells you that there's a mental problem, not just with that particular officer, but maybe the work environment at the department, maybe their home life. But I would have loved to have seen free mental health for all officers in that bill. I also would have loved to have seen whistleblower protection for all officers to the same degree the feds have it. Federal officers have whistleblower protection. Municipal, state, and county officers do not. Y'all don't know that, but they don't. When you tell them something, you're out there, and they can hang you out to dry because you're not going to legislate police reform. I don't care if Joe Biden or anything else says that. It's not going to happen until you get officers who feel safe enough or are willing to take the hits and speak up. That's got to be done.
Because understand, y'all, this is not one of those things like a chalkboard. You're just going to take it and erase everything and start over. No, that's not going to work either, people. There is no, okay, defund the police, start over with a whole new police department and all of that. No, it's not as simple as that. It's not as easy as that. No, it's not going to work that way. Understand that some of you guys, when you come with some of your conclusions and solutions in regards to what we can do to fix this thing, they are not realistic. You are not thinking of it from all sides of the scenario.
Because, Eric, I don't expect you guys to, because you don't know, because the police have not told you. The profession has been so secretive for so long. You don't know what you don't know. You only know what we let you see. So I don't blame those people for having the view that they have. Because when I say a statement such as, I think that police reform should include police officers, I'm a person, okay? There are people here that might not have liked Stan if they saw me in uniform just because I'm a police officer, not knowing the show I did. But because I do this show and I speak up, they'll say they like Stan. But police officers are people. They're humans. And when you're black or a female in this profession, you take that uniform off and you're subject to everything that's happening. Oftentimes, you're subject to it in the uniform in the department. So we can't remove police officers from the planning and the formation of what we see as police reform. We must include them in the discussion and also recognize that oftentimes they are victims. They're the first victims of the political pressure, because I'm going to tell y'all, officers take hits for y'all that you never know about. The bullshit policies that come out of your city council, those ordinances that come out, before you even fell victim to it, there were officers in roll call complaining about it, saying this is garbage, it ain't going to work, this is going to make my job harder, and that officer was told just do it. But y'all never know that. They just see the officer enforcing this policy. But you don't hear the fights that go on in these roll calls when officers say this is garbage and the chief says just do it. But then what does the chief get to do? Come out and say, well, that's what our city does, and we're going to toe the line, because he's not out there.
Right. For example, when we talk about the situation here in regards to COVID, where these places are required to only have half capacity, or everybody must wear a mask in some of these stores and whatnot. Now here you go, having to enforce that as part of the law, and then you have to deal with all the backlash that comes from it. You go in these places like, well, why I got to wear a mask, blah, blah, blah. The people behind the counter ain't wearing no mask, and you have to deal with that. Those types of things.
Eric, the whole mask thing, I choose to wear one. If you don't want to wear one, that's fine. Guess what Stan is doing? If that store that Stan goes to doesn't mandate masks, Stan's not going there. I don't have the energy or the time because this guy doesn't want to wear a mask. The police have got much better things to do than to be the mask police. Everybody says, where are the cops when you need them? We're running around here writing tickets for people not wearing a mask. You don't want to wear it, go into the COVID store or whatever and do what you do. That I believe, and there needs to be a police chief that has enough guts to stand up and tell their city council and the mayor, we're not doing this. We don't have the manning. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources. My people are overworked. They're scared of catching COVID. They're stressed. If you don't want to wear a mask and you go in this store, then if the store's policy is you wear one and the person doesn't want to go, it's quick and simple. You go over there, write them a ticket, or take them to jail. Period. End of discussion. You don't have the right to go in the store if the owner of the store says no. It should be that simple. If the store doesn't have a mask policy, you don't need to go there. Don't send the police. Let the store handle it. That's their business.
And see, again, that is part of the issue. When you take the police away from doing the important parts of their job to deal with foolishness that basically you can resolve on your own or should not even be an issue because you as a citizen know that that is the law at this point, just wear the damn mask and stop causing all the confusion, whether you agree with it or not. And guess what? If you choose not to, stay your butt at home then. Have somebody else go to the store for you.
Right, but if you wear a mask and you're offended by somebody not wearing one in that store, take your ass somewhere else and shop. If it bothers you, why get worked up over it? We live in a culture right now where people are getting worked up over things that just don't even deal with it.
Okay.
Just let it go.
Now here it is. We only got Stan for a few more minutes. I'm about to run through the questions, Stan. You answer what you can, what you can't, so on and so forth. Here we go. Take a breath. Go. Why do officers shoot people who are running away that are not violent offenders or have simple bench warrants? So you think officers should be accountable or departments be held accountable when a citizen is injured or killed? Okay, hold on. That's how y'all doing. Okay. Mental health benefits need to be more than only 3-6 visits a year, especially in highly stressful jobs, careers. That's a whole nother conversation, but I agree. I disagree that it's not realistic. It may not be practical because of the ramifications involved. I'm not quite sure what part of the conversation we're referring to. I want to know your opinion, whether you think that Kim Potter...
Let me get that one. Yeah, let me get that one, bro.
Definitely, because they talk about
let me get that there. Put that comment back up again.
All right, absolutely.
Because I want to say I love that. I'm going to give y'all something. I told Eric this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through now a week of every news media outlet reminding you all, like you're stupid, that tasers are yellow and guns are black. You can see that. Then they moved into the gun weighs more than the taser. None of us are dumb. You can see that. Well, the officer's gun is on the strong side, which for me, right-handed is on my right side, taser's on the left side, you cross draw. We can see that. Taser International, when you buy tasers, it is a city purchase. You're not going and buying 3 tasers with a coupon. They're generally buying 500 or 2,000 or whatever in a city contract with parts and maintenance and spare parts and all that. You're entering into a long city contract with Taser International. Now, Taser International will send to that department when you buy these tasers. Here is a outline to draw your training plan from. We're going to send a trainer to your department, depending on the size of the department, to train your guys who are going to then go back and train the rest. These are things that we recommend that you put into your use of force policy, that we will stand behind in court and represent you and say, hey, this is what they do, exactly what we said. But here are things that if you don't put it in there, it's department's option. If you don't put it in, we may not come there and stand in your corner. Here are some of those things. A, you don't tase anybody on a bicycle, pedicycle, moped, motorcycle, ATV. I hope y'all sitting down. Elevated place, standing on stairs, standing on a ladder, standing on the balcony, or in a vehicle with the ignition running. So we have a 26-year veteran officer and field training officer who is responsible for shaping the hearts and minds of these young people who come out here blue and don't know nothing. 26 years. And you get to that car. The discussion isn't whether she grabbed her taser or gun and got confused. The discussion is, why would you even reach for your taser to use when you may, I haven't seen it, but may, and Taser International says, do not use a taser on anybody behind the wheel of a vehicle with the ignition on. Why would you do that? That tells you right there, the taser isn't an option. Guess what is? These pills. And if you're scared to put these hands on folks, going to Amy's question, why do officers shoot people in the back? They're angry. They're how dare you challenge me, and you're not going to get away. That I can't see a scenario for shooting anybody in the back. I just simply can't. Running away, how do you go into a courtroom and say, I shot this person because I'm in fear of my life, when they, no matter what they did to you, they have now disengaged and they are putting distance between you and them, because we're taught in a deadly force encounter. If I'm encountering you and you come out the car with a gun, the first thing we're trained to do is put distance between me and you.
Okay, couple last questions. We got to let Stan go. Okay, so you think officers should be held accountable, or departments should be held accountable when a citizen is injured or killed?
Absolutely.
Now, here's the thing. Of course, there is the criminal case and the civil case. When it is settled in the civil court, there are judgments paid out. Where's that money coming from?
It depends. A lot of times people think that money comes from the taxpayers. No, it's not always the case. Some cities carry a municipal bond or insurance, so to speak, for these type of things, for several cases. For instance, you may have a city that has $15 million policy, and so somebody sues them for $500,000. You got taxpayers running, that's $500,000 of our taxpayer dollars. Well, I know actually it isn't. It's coming out of the insurance.
Okay.
And, $500,000 is not going to automatically raise those rates. But a lot of people don't know. That's a question for them to go back and ask their municipalities. Do we have a municipal bond or insurance that handles our civil lawsuits, or is it actually coming from us? See, we can't just look at $5 million went over here and that's taxpayer money. That's not always the case. That signifies that you haven't done your research. So when these people get on these shows and they say that, other people that do know will go, well, okay, I'm dealing with somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about.
And that is why you have people who have these understandings come on your show, as opposed to somebody that's spitballing and not doing no research. Agreed. Okay. Meet you saying police No, policies are most of the time made by those who bark from the porch but never walk with the big dogs in the street.
Okay, Big Meat is 1,000% right. And I'm going to tell you why I consistently see this in the black community across America. I see the church at the corner of murder and mayhem. The pastor lives out at Lovely and Lacey. He tells the parishioners, be long-suffering, joy cometh in the morning, turn the other cheek. Well, preacher, the prostitutes aren't on your porch. The gunshots aren't in your neighborhood. But see, this is where the disconnect comes. It's because some of these black preachers have pimped their way into a sense of camaraderie with the elitists, okay? They're just glad to be sitting there at the dinner with them or at the country club or whatever. So when you go to Reverend Jack Boot and you're giving him your crisis, he has access to the people who are in a position of power. If he conveys your crisis as an inconvenience, those people who see it as not a big deal. And that's why our conditions never get solved. So you speak for yourself. You don't need the preacher to see the chief. You don't have to have the rabbi with you to go to the city council. Nobody can speak for you like you can speak for you. I'm not going to do behind the blue curtain and go, well, this guy's speaking for Stan today. No, that's BS. I'm not going to do it. And we have surrendered our anger, our righteous anger, our rage, our experience with our conditions. You don't have to be the most articulate person in the world. Because guess what? You don't have to sound smart because half the time the mess you're going through isn't smart, but smart people created it. Okay, you don't have to be polite because the situation you're going through isn't polite. When I speak, I want you to see my passion. I want you to see my anger. I want you to see my outrage in my dialogue and how I speak to that which is important to me. Because you're going to hear me, whether you want to listen or whether you don't. Now, what you do or don't do, and I'm going to call you out on that. But when I have a problem and go to somebody in a position to affect change, I want to know why. You're not going to get the sweet version.
Okay, let me address this and then one last thing. Okay, it's called bargaining power. Favors and powers, baby. Economic and community power brokers. Exactly. Now, okay, here's the thing. Because I need people to understand something that you constantly talk about on your show, the importance of community policing. In other words, people who actually live in said community be policing that community. Please speak on that for a few, would you?
I can't really teach citizens anything about community policing because I think when you live in low income or moderate income communities, you already know what community policing is because you don't have to go anything but look back at Adam 12 or anything or how cops did it there. I think police departments need to learn to understand what community policing is. Black officers have done community policing historically in America forever because you got to remember, when we got hired, we didn't get a badge in the gun, we got a badge in the stick and got sent to the worst part of town where you had to have those relationships. So I think that it is in our DNA, so to speak, to be community oriented, but I think the ability of a lot of Black and Hispanic officers to be community police officers is driven out of them by departments because they want you to be Black, but not too Black. Because when I become uncomfortable as a white officer or somebody who is over the top blue committed, because Stan is for the progression of the Black community and the poor community, I make you uncomfortable, I become the bad guy, see? So the problem is not the community understanding community policing. The problem is the police understanding community policing.
All right. So there you have it. This, my friends, is Stan Mason. Yeah, a couple comments. This is informative. I completely agree. And Miss Pat wants to thank you for coming on and giving us the knowledge that we need. We need more of these conversations. Absolutely. I agree. Before you go, Stan, please plug the show. And before you do that, let me inform people that next week I will not be doing Get Off My Lawn Live here on Tuesday. Instead, I will actually be rebroadcasting the show that Stan Mason did the past Saturday in regards to that discussion. I feel like you will also learn a lot, as I did, from the discussion that they had on last week's show. So that being said, let him tell you about what goes on from there. Go ahead, Stan.
Okay, our show is Behind the Blue Curtain. It's every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central. We do have a call-in number, 646-716-4621. We don't screen calls. You press 1. I know you want to talk. As long as you make sense, you don't have to agree with any of us. We don't have to agree with you. We let you go ahead and go. We tackle the tough inside issues. Some of the things you hear me talking about here today, because we do our show to educate and empower you, not to follow Stan, not to become Stan is a leader. I'm not a leader. I'm just not scared to say what is right and give you the tools you need to be better than you were yesterday. They're not afraid of Stan. They're afraid of empowered people. And nobody's going to fight your battle like you will. So the show is dedicated. We talk about varying topics, hard-hitting topics, and things that the major media won't touch. This week, we're going to cover reimagining policing. Because I don't want to reform policing. I don't want to defund policing. I want to reimagine it. Because for policing to be what black people want and white people want and rich people and poor people and cops, we have to first see it here. If we can't see it here, we can't make our little part we want come into fruition or a digestible discussion at the table. So let's look at our lives. What do we want? I think black folks have been saying it for years, but we have to understand the demographic of America is going through changes and they're uncomfortable. And we got to be patient and bring them kicking and screaming to the table. But at the same time, we are at a point where we don't need to follow these come along to get along leaders who say, bring it to me, I'm all power and all knowing. If your leader is not empowering you with the tools and education and resources you need to address your situation, the leader should say, I'll stand with you, not speak for you. You see what lawyers charge for that. You're all you need sometime.
Mm.
You're all you need sometime.
Yes, and do understand, in order to get to where we need to be in regards to all that, we as the people, the citizens, must also be part of that solution. So hopefully you gain that understanding from this discussion. Thank you very much, Brother Stan. We appreciate you. Amy says, thanks for answering my question, Stan. Like I said, make sure y'all tune in to Behind the Blue Curtain this Saturday at 11 a.m. EST as part of one of the several shows I show here on the Nighthawk Network. And again, I will be rebroadcasting the past Saturday show next Tuesday in this time slot, as opposed to Get Off My Lawn Live. So I may check in briefly to introduce it. So there is that. So thanks again, Stan. When we come back after this commercial break, we will be talking about body image and why I think that is an important discussion to have at this time. So yes, sir. Thank you very much, Stan.
Good night, everybody.
I will catch you on the flip, and we will be back, y'all. This is Get Off My Lawn Live. That was Stan Mason. I'm Eric Buckner. We'll be back.
Hey, bitches.
And now, once again, from the iconic city of Baltimore, we bring you season 2 of Helena Hologram. Hey, bitches. Let's talk about it.
Hello, hello, hello. It's another glorious day, my T-Sippers, and you know what time it is. I hope you have all of your comfort together because it's time to dish tea. And you're dishing tea, darlings, with Big Meat.
Can't wait. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat.
Darling.
What's going on, y'all? We are back here on Get Off My Lawn Live. Once again, thank you to my big brother, Stan Mason for coming through and blessing us with his knowledge in regards to policing and police reform and helping us to understand that, yeah, that conversation is something that we need to continue to have so we can gain a full understanding from the inside and out for that matter. Everybody wants to thank Stan. Thank you, says Amy. Thank you, says Tracy. My partner Hugh Lee checking in. Good night, Stan. I love you, Miss Hologram. I love all my Nighthawk Network family. Love you, Meech. And we love you too, Miss Pat. And I love all of y'all as well. So that being said, y'all, like I said, we have one more discussion we're going to have this evening before we tune out. Again, I will not be on next week, but I will be reposting at this time Stan Mason's Behind the Blue Curtain episode for last Saturday, because many of the things they talked about also plays into that conversation we just had with Stan. And you need to have those understandings in regards to certain things. They addressed a lot of the present cases that we knew before this week, obviously, in regards to some of those incidents that we've had recently. So they're going to talk about that. I also would like for you to check out his show this Saturday, as I'm sure they will address some of the other things that happened today, including what happened with the young lady this evening that was shot, some of the things that happened here in Detroit in regards to what Chief Craig said, what Maxine Waters said in regards to policing, what Ms. Talib has said in regard to it as well. We love you too, E-Buck. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that, brother. So Miss Toxic and Miss Cheeks, I should say, checking in on the Vigo. Shout out to you guys. Okay, right now we want to talk about body imaging. Okay, here's the thing, people. Understand that we are in the midst of the pandemic, but it will be over soon, and certain things are going to get pushed. Okay, they want to continue to stimulate the economy, and one of the things that they are going to be pushing is, okay, now that we are out and about, it is time to get back to normal. You have not worn clothes in a while. You have not done this in a while. You are out of shape from the pandemic, so on and so forth. Please buy this product, that product, this product. Keep in mind, as we sit here, we are looking at two Kardashians that are either billionaires or almost billionaire and have built a great part of that empire on things that people wear, things that people use in regards to makeup and things of that nature. That is because we as a society, particularly here in the United States, have a big issue with how we look, how other people perceive how we look in terms of what our bodies look like, what our faces look like, what our hair looks like. We spend millions and billions of dollars each year on clothes that make us look thinner, on makeup that makes us look younger, on cream that makes us look younger, on Botox, on plastic surgeries, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Understand this. These things are based upon what we have seen in terms of the media, what we see in terms of social media, where we go on our Instagram and we see these models with paper thin waists and big outlandish boobies and butt, where we see these guys working out in the gym with 8 packs with basically that much fat on them and things of that nature. Remember, folks, these people that you see that you look to want to be like because you feel like they are the it people and everybody wants them. One or two things go on. One, they are literally killing themselves to look that way, okay? If they actually do. Remember, a lot of these pictures and photographs that we see in these magazines or on movies or on billboards or whatnot, they are something that we call Photoshop. For those of us who know what Photoshop is, that means you can take an image and you can erase the blemishes. You can erase these stretch marks. You can add on a 6 pack or an 8 pack. You can take somebody's perfect body and put it on somebody else's body and add the face and the head to where it all looks like that is what that person actually looks like. We, my friends, are buying into this non-reality. Understand that when we leave out our door and go for a walk in the neighborhood or wherever we are, most of the people that we see, they look like us. They don't have perfect body and perfect skin. They are not physically fit to the point where they have 2% body fat. Most of them look like us. Now, if you're concerned with your body, as it is in my case, the fact that because you are overweight and your body needs to function properly in order to achieve an older age that you will be comfortable with, to where when you become 60 and 70, because you are over 300 pounds, Now you cannot do the things that you need to do because your body was not meant to carry that type of weight at that age with weakening bones and what have you. Those are my concerns. That is why I am looking to get in better shape. Can I be doing a better job of it? Of course. We all can. But in the same token, I look at some of the things that we are looking to purchase in regards to hiding what our bodies look like or giving people a false sense of what we look like or even caring to that degree. And I have to understand that, okay, we are going off the exceptions than the rules. Look at it in terms of COVID right now. If most of us dealt with COVID the way the reckless people are, the COVID situation would be far worse than it is now. In other words, let's just say 80% of us decided mask is bullshit. I'm not wearing that, period. I don't care if it's the law. I don't care they arrest me. I don't care they charge me. None of that. In the end, you have to look at it from the standpoint, okay, all these people doing it, how many of them they going to actually arrest? Especially if most of the people that do the arresting feel the same way I do. On the other hand, the 20% look at it like, look, man, we got to do what we got to do. Damn all that, because then we the ones that's in the right. Now look at this argument. Most of us look like this, okay? We have stretch marks and fat and flab and what have you, okay? It is that. Why can't we not understand that that is what the reality is that we need to accept, okay? Everybody's not going to grow up to be the average person, which according to certain stats, average female is what, 5'4", weighs 120 pounds. How many of you out there are close to that on either side of the scale? The average man is supposed to be about 5'8", 5'9", 175 pounds. Nah, ain't many of us walking around with that. Remember, folks, we all are built differently by design. The creator, whoever you deem him to be, has made it to where we all do not look alike. So why are we all trying to look alike? Why are we all sitting here thinking that if we don't have a 8-pack and we don't have boobies that stand up on their own with the perfect size nipples and a booty that's just perfectly round, that we are bad people, that people will not consider us, that people will not look at us the same as if those people. Keep in mind, the actual number of people that honestly look like that and the type of work that it takes to either maintain that, get to that point, or what have you. We've heard the stories from some of these Hollywood actors that are constantly doing the big movie roles, so they're constantly training to look that way. And some of the things they have to endure in order to keep that going. The getting up at 3 a.m, the working out 4 and 5 hours a day, the eating of the avocado ice cream and all that type of crap. Are you willing to do that just to have some semblance of, okay, now this is what I look like, I'm happy? Or will that actually make you unhappier because you had to deal with all of that? And now you're dealing with people who look upon you primarily for how you look. Now, me as a person, I will tell you, I like an attractive woman, absolutely. The people that look like that in real life, yeah, they are attractive to me. But in the same token, I also look at the other things they bring to the table. And oftentimes, those people who are looking like that, the beautiful people we would call them, several of them, they have the worst attitudes. They have the worst mentality because people have always babied them or basically gave them special privilege because of how they look. A lot of them have grown up with the mentality that I am that. I am that deal. I am all of that. Because I look this way, I can get what I want. And I will use it to get what I want. The people that think like that, they have to understand gravity eventually hits. Eventually, if you go get that surgery, you still get older, you still get bigger, you have to go back and get that surgery again. Your body might be one way at 30 and a different way at 50. You may have to go that surgery multiple times. The Botox only lasts for so long. So on and so forth. These are things that we have to consider in regards to that. We have a problem here in society. We are looking at the wrong things in terms of what guides us and leads us, okay? If we all have a consideration that, okay, we just need to be healthy, we need to do what we can so that we all live to be a nice long age, and that's what the concern is in terms of your body weight and things of that nature, that's one thing. But if you basically are doing it just because they're not going to think I'm pretty unless my boobies stand up. They're not going to think I'm a good looking dude unless I got this 8-pack and whatnot. Are you willing to put everything that it is into that in terms of your time and energy, your money to make that happen? And if so, you achieve that, and now what? It makes sense that The Rock and people of that nature, the Jason Momoas of the world, trained to look like that. Because when they do these movies and take those roles, that's what we expect them to look like, and they get paid big money to do that. Okay, they're making tens and twenties of millions of dollars. But for those of you that want to look like that or feel like you need to look like that, and you don't have the cachet to do that, is that what drives you to be a person that makes more money? I oftentimes heard many a person, even people in my personal circle, yeah, if I had the money to get this plastic surgery or this tummy tuck or this liposuction, I'd do that. And then what? Have you heard the stories about what happens where oftentimes these people get these things done and in the end they are 10 years down the line and they need it done again, or it didn't take the way you thought it would? All of those things. Hey, Aunt Nikki, checking in on the Bigo. Those are the considerations I want you guys to have. Okay, hold on. Let me address some of these comments here. Absolutely, Eric. These people had surgery. Exactly. That work they get costs money. True, true. You better know because most of them feel privileged. Yes, they do. I thank God that I am my daughters, that I am, my daughters are just living. Uh-huh. Many times it's an illusion. People need to put work on the inside. Looks fade. Exactly. Because in the end, if you are basing people liking you upon what you look like, I need you to reevaluate these people that you put yourself around. If you are looking to find someone with the perfect body and perfect shape, understand that if you feed them for a few days some regular food, that's going to change that. Understand that, okay, you find this person and you are not that person, and somebody else comes along that's built more like them, they are more likely to be drawn to that because they are so into what they look like. They're going to want someone else who's also into what he or she looks like. Understand that. Also understand you are spending hundreds and millions and billions of dollars on these products, many of which work to some degree, for what is the end? In the end, if you yourself feel like I need this to feel good about myself, I cannot be mad at you for that. But if you are doing it for the reason of, okay, I just want people to accept me for such and such and such, and this is why I must have this going on with myself so now I can be a real person, most of these people are not real people. In real life, in actual life, most people look like you or I. Okay? Accept that, y'all. It is okay. Part of the beauty of people when you get older is not their perfections, but their imperfections. Like you may like me because I have the buck teeth or what have you. You may like me because I had the big bald head or what have you, with the little dent right here from the accident. That might be the things that make me endearing to you, okay? And so on and so forth. There are men that like the fit woman, but there are also men that would appreciate a woman that has a few stretch marks, that's body's been lived in a little bit, that may sag a little and whatnot. As a person of that particular age, because more times than not, you will date somebody your own age or close to it, you have that understanding going in. You're not expecting that person to be built like that. And if they so happen to be, that's awesome. But if not, not the end of the world. Hey, Tracy, but you have to keep buying them and using them. Most people are unhappy. And yes, I think if you talk to these people honestly about how they really feel in regards to doing all this, they are unhappy because it takes so much and it requires so much. And in the end, do you get real friends out the deal? Do you get real people that's going to deal with you and have an understanding with you that you would like for them to have? Or is it all about what you look like, what they look like? Just being one of the beautiful people. Remember, there are far less of the beautiful people than there are of us. In the end, you may want to strive to get that. Some of you may put in that work, pay that money to make it happen. May feel that it is so necessary. Anything that I've said has been lost on you. But for those of you learned people who think, who analyze things in that way, think about it. Analyze your last 20 purchases. How many of them had something to do with what you look like or what you wanted people to see you in? Think about that next time you go to Amazon or to the store or to the mall and buy things. Yes, there are those cautionary tales, like Miss Pat is talking about. Look at Little Kim now. Little Kim was beautiful just the way she was. She shouldn't have touched nothing on her body at all. She should have understood that in my 20s, yeah, I might be a little here and little there, but as life goes on, you become more attractive, more beautiful. You don't need all these extra extensions and waist trainers and stockings and skims and all that stuff that the Kardashians are trying to sell you in regards to making you feel and look more beautiful. Okay, understand that you are beautiful just as you are, my friend. Know that and understand that. And if it's not good enough for some people, those are not people you necessarily want to be around. Okay, accept you for you. Anybody who's real will do the same. And if it's not to their liking, guess what? Hell with them. Because right now I am looking to lose weight because I want to be a healthier version of myself. But in the end, it's gonna be some stretch marks. It's gonna be some stuff that's sad. And guess what? I'm all right with that. And if you're not, hey, you ain't got to be bothered with me. You ain't got to tune into the show. You ain't got to try to date me or look at me or none of that. I'm good. Life will go on without you. Okay, Miss Patterson, yes, she has. Yeah, talking about Little Kim. No one is perfect, so you should accept them flaws and all. Absolutely. Absolutely, Ro. Yes, she was, but that life draw you in different directions. Exactly. And that's part of it as well. But yes, people, accept you for who you are. Remember, we represent the majority, okay? We are the beautiful people. That's what I need y'all to understand. We, the people that look this way, that look the way you look. You are the beautiful people. Stop trying to live up to a standard that don't even really exist in real life. Most of these people that, again, the most of the people that we're looking at in terms of I want my body to look like that, they don't even really look like that for real. It's smoke and mirrors, okay? Understand that. Move on. Okay, I've seen some people who are beautiful and just don't know it. Absolutely. And there are several of you out there. Trust me. Even if you don't think so when you look in the mirror, there are other people that think you are very beautiful. Seek those people out. Those are the people you want to be around. So that being said, y'all, we about to wrap it up here. Another fine show in my own standard. Exactly. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for your comments, your remarks. Thank you here on Bigo for your remarks and comments and for the gifts as well. Thank you also on Instagram for tuning in. I appreciate it. Before I go, I must always shout out the other folks that are part of this thing I call the Nighthawk Network. Among them include the following shows. We have, of course, Helena Hologram, who just checked in. Her show is Hey Bitches. We'll host Helena Hologram, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights. Another great show coming up next week and in the weeks to come. Look forward to the promos in regards to that coming soon. We have Monumental Moments in God's Word with Dr. Marla Facey, who checked in early in the show. You could catch that show earlier on Thursday because now there's another show she does on Thursdays as well called No Weapon Formed Against Us, starring Dr. Anderson and soon my cousin also, Miss Mimi Pinson, who is her sister in real life. We have Dish and Tea with Big Meech, Aunt Nikki, and Big Red that you can catch on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sunday. Tune in for that. We, of course, have Let's Talk with Aunt Nikki's interview show. Another one to be coming soon, hopefully, to the Nighthawk Network. We had, of course, our guest this evening, Mr. Stan Mason. His show, Stan Mason Behind the Blue Curtain, comes on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, remember, this time next week, I'm going to be airing the previous show from this last Saturday that Stan did Behind the Blue Curtain, because I think that was a very important conversation they had, and I want you guys to check that out yet again. We have Girl Stop Podcast with Elena Miller and Letitia Williams Howard. The newest episode of that I will be posting tomorrow. We also have Pastor Sean Love Presents. I look forward to viewing that. I have not viewed that week's episode, as in this week's, but looking forward to doing that tomorrow. Shout out to you, Sean Love. He checked in on the Instagram today. We got to Get Off My Lawn After Dark edition. That will be coming back in season 2, so look forward to that. We also have the Game Time Audible, which we will be doing tomorrow. Me and my guy, Mr. Hugh Lee. We will be doing our sports talk Wednesday at 9 p.m. We will also be doing that here on Bigo, so look and tune in for that. Okay, and as well, we have other shows that will be joining the Nighthawk Network hopefully very soon. Among them are Israel's Room, starring that guy Israel Jenkins. He will be joining us soon, as well as the Gospel According to Pride coming soon to the Nighthawk Network. Now, before we go, I must point out if you have any comments, remarks in regards to any of the broadcasting shows that I put on the network, you may send them to the following Gmail address, okay? That is that one right here, Night H Network 313 at gmail.com. And then address that comment to whatever show or personality that you want to talk to in regards to something they have said or something you would like for them to involve in their show, what have you, and I will make sure they get that information. There's also a phone number for the Nighthawk Network that you may now call. It is not set up today, folks, so I will not put it on the screen, but I will let you know at 248-275-6074 will be that number, and there will be a voicemail set up, so if you want to leave anything in regards to a actual voice message in regards to any of the shows on the Nighthawk Network, you may, and I will then in turn give those messages to the appropriate host or person in regards to that particular comment. So we will have that available tomorrow for you guys as well. So that being said, y'all, about to get out of here. Let me take this last comment on the way out the door. It is the Kardashians paid for their looks. Absolutely. Most of these people that we talked about did that very thing. It is not so simple as they make it out to be. You can buy all the makeup and waist trainers and stuff in the world. It is not going to change the fact that in the end, most people that are real looking people look like how they look, and that's how God made them. Accept that. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, y'all have a good one tomorrow. Game Time Audible, 9 p.m. Please tune in. Thank you all for tuning in on the various platforms. I appreciate it. I will catch up with you guys later on. As always, as my man Stan Mason often says on his show, let me reiterate, life is not a Trump rally. COVID is not over, folks. This is your mask. Please wear it. Please social distance where you can. Please follow the mandated guidelines. No, they are not trying to take away your freedom. They are trying to keep you safe so you do not add yourself to the 575,000 people who have died or the 3.5 million who have died all over the world. This is for the benefit of all mankind, not just to hold you down or make you not be free or whatever stupid thing some of y'all are thinking in regards to it. We trying to get rid of this thing and get it to a point to where it's under control and we can live our life like we used to some degree. We cannot do that without more of you guys' cooperation, okay? So that's that. Until next week, well, actually, until the week after next, y'all, because next week, again, you're going to get Stan Mason in the spot. Again, like I said, be safe, be careful. I just want y'all to be able to see tomorrow's show and next week's show and next month's show and all of that, not be coughing and have hoses in your nose and all that, or be looking at the roof of the church before then, okay? That's all. So, yeah, we out of here, y'all. In 3, 2, 1, bye!